Good evening, and welcome to our Tuesday evening community mindfulness drop-in group. And I am Clara Irwin, and I'm filling in for Lindsay Bridges, and she will be back next week. So tonight I want to offer a grounding practice and a late meditation, and then a short share. And I wanted to start with a poem by Wendell Berry called The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's life may be, I go down where the wood drake rests in its beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free. So let's begin, and finding a position that's comfortable for you, with your eyes downcast or closed, whichever is most comfortable. And to begin, thanking yourself for being here. And notice what that feels like in your body. Offering a warm welcome as you would to a dear friend. And beginning by noticing your feet on the floor, how they're resting there. Noticing how the floor supports you. Points of contact and pressure. Noticing your toes and the soles of your feet. Noticing any sensations that are there. Tingling, any temperature, warmth or cool. And now shifting your focus to notice your hands. Noticing the palm of your hands and the fingers. Noticing where they are touching each other or touching your legs. Noticing the points of contact, how they're resting there. Noticing, are they warm or cool or maybe damp? And now expanding your awareness to include sounds. Sounds inside the room and sounds outside the room. Noticing our tendency to label sounds and seeing if you can be with the bare experience of hearing. And now shifting your awareness again to include thoughts, watching them as you would clouds crossing the sky. And noticing if you get caught in the thoughts. And then seeing if you can be aware of the difference between being caught up and being aware. And returning to the awareness of thoughts. And now shifting your awareness to the body, resting here in this seat. Allowing your attention to come into the body, this body breathing. Noticing the breath coming in and the breath leaving. Experience the body as a whole, moment by moment, breath by breath. And now bringing an image of a lake to mind. Perhaps a lake that you know of and have been to, or perhaps only a lake you can imagine. And bringing this lake to your mind's eye. And noticing how the body of the lake is held in the earth. And noticing as you bring your attention to the lake, it is always changing. And at the same time, it's always itself. It changes as the sun moves across it, and as the way the light is reflected in different ways at different times during the day. And knowing it changes with the weather. Perhaps noticing how the weather affects the surface of the lake. At times the surface is calm, like glass, reflecting everything that comes. The clouds, birds, the sun, even the moon and stars at night. Sometimes a gentle wind stirs the surface, making the light sparkle off the lake in different patterns. And other times there are storms, and the surface of the lake is rough and turbulent, and the reflections are blurred. And just as the storms come, stay a while, and pass away, so do the seasons. In winter, the lake may be frozen, making it hard to see the life below, deeper in. And in spring, what had been frozen begins to melt and flow. The surface again reflects the return of the birds, the budding of the trees around its edges. And with summer, there's a return of warmth, calming the life within to come to the surface. And as summer fades and fall arrives, the lake welcomes the leaves, reflecting their true colors that had been hidden in summer with their green covering. And through all the seasons, the lake is always changing and always itself. And now seeing if you can allow your body to become the lake, feeling held and embraced by the earth like the lake, having a sense of the whole body, the surface of the skin, and deeper in. Experiencing the fullness of your being as you rest here. Noticing moment by moment the sensations in the body, how they come, stay a while, and pass away. Noticing the mind like the surface of the lake, reflecting what comes and goes, at times still, and other times turbulent. Knowing we can always drop down below the surface to a place of stillness and calm, always available to us in each moment, sensing into this place deep within us, moment by moment, breath by breath. Resting here, whole. And so I thought I would offer a few practices that I've learned from different teachers that I think are helpful during this challenging time of uncertainty. So the first one is, I call it coming into the present moment. And it has 3 parts. And the first part is to take a breath. So let's take a breath together. Noticing the cool air as you breathe in. Noticing how it changes as you breathe out. And let's take 2 more breaths. Breathing in. Breathing out. And 1 more. So that's the first step. The second step is to notice your feet on the floor. So our feet are one place in our body that really doesn't hold anxiety. So if we're feeling anxious, to bring our attention into our feet. And let's do that together. Noticing your feet touching the floor, the toes and the soles of the feet. Noticing how the floor supports you, how gravity holds you here. If you have on a socks or shoes, noticing the feel of the sock and the shoe on your foot and what that feels like. Noticing your feet, dropping down into your feet. And the third step is, I learned from Willoughby Britton, who says to repeat. And she says, find short moments of awareness and repeat many times. So short moments of awareness, repeat many times. Okay, that's the first practice. So the second one is called STOP, the acronym STOP. And you may have heard this if you've taken the mindfulness-based stress reduction class. So S stands for stop in this moment. T stands for take a breath. So let's take another breath together. O stands for observe. So you might observe what's happening in your body, any tightness or tension. Just noticing. And P stands for proceed. So STOP is a great acronym to carry around with you. And if you stop at a stop sign, you might also remember to do that practice. The third practice I got from Judson Brewer, who's at Brown, and it's called Changing a Habit. And so he talks about this time being a time of uncertainty, and uncertainty with the virus, and uncertainty equals anxiety. And what happens is with all the news and the internet and checking it all the time and reading it frequently, we end up more anxious and sometimes in a state of panic. And so this is about how do you change a habit. And the first thing he suggests is, instead of checking the news or your email or the internet throughout the day, just make a decision to check it 2 or 3 times. And the second thing he suggests is to change it up in terms of the time you do it. So if you check come on your computer first thing in the morning and look at your email and the news, maybe change that to a different time of day. And then the third thing he says, if you're having a hard time doing it, to ask yourself this question: what do I get out of this? Doing this, what do I get? And how long does it last? And just ask yourself, and you might begin to notice what you get out of it, which might be nothing or more anxiety. So that's the third practice. The fourth one is about connecting and belonging. And so sheltering in place and social distancing is challenging, I think, for all of us. And I think the longer it lasts, the harder it might become. And so if you have children or a partner or a spouse, taking a moment and asking them, how are they really, really doing? And giving them a hug. So if those people aren't in your home, if you have a pet, getting your pet and giving him a hug or her and a good scratch. And the last one is, if you don't have a family at home or a pet, to go outside and look at the sky and remember these words of Mary Oliver from her poem Wild Geese. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Belonging. And then the last practice I was going to share is kindness and compassion. So in all Asian languages, the word for mind and heart are the same. So when you hear the word mindfulness, you're also hearing the word heartfulness. And I have thought many times, how would we ever be mindful if we weren't compassionate and heartful with our lives? Because it's hard sometimes, especially during this time and other times too. So I have to share that yesterday I was looking at my email, and I had an email from the school I went to in Florida, and it had a link to a story about a graduating senior who was written up in the Miami Herald, and he was playing his violin, and they had a link to the video, and I watched him playing, and he was in the street in these neighborhoods, and they had made he had made it, I'm not sure, with duct tape around him, and he was playing his violin, and it was beautiful, and people were coming out and just listening. And as I was listening, I felt this deep sense of kindness and compassion standing there and hearing him, which leads me to say, may we all find our own ways of offering compassion and kindness to ourselves and others during this time. So, as a closing, I have a poem that I'd like to read, and it is by a woman named Kitty O'Meara. And so she lives in Wisconsin, and she's been just writing all her life in groups, but never tried to publish anything. And so she wrote this poem, and she sent it to a friend. And somehow, I don't know how, but Oprah saw it, and it's gone viral. And I don't know that she wanted any of that to happen, because that's not why she wrote it. But it really is beautiful, and I wanted to read it as a closing. And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games and learned new ways of being and were still and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced, some met their shadows, and the people began to think differently, and the people healed. And in the absence of living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses and made new choices and dreamed new images and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed. So I thank you for coming this evening, and I enjoyed getting to share what I did, and I hope that if you will return and come visit the Charlotte Center for Mindfulness drop-in groups frequently. So as a closing, I'll ring the bell, and may you all be safe and well. Thank you.